There comes a time in your late 50s or 60s, and maybe for some of you even earlier, where you hit an important realization in your retirement planning. For me, not too long ago, I had signed up for retirement software that was powerful and complex and much more in depth than the spreadsheets I was using and some of the free sites I was using. And I plugged in all our numbers, and what I realized was what I was going to contribute over the next several years really didn't make a difference to our retirement income long term. That was an important realization. We'd hit the crossover point where after years of contributing and compounding and dividends, that our retirement accounts were self-sustaining. The contributions that were done through earnings and bonds and dividends were now greater than what we could contribute into them. And it's a great feeling. And some people don't get there, but keep trying. And others, if you're there, congratulations for making it to what is essentially the financial finish line to retirement. So in having that realization and knowing that we were going to keep working for a few more years because of various needs in our life, it changed our attitudes and it changed how we looked at retirement savings, and it made us reevaluate how we're going to approach retirement savings for the next several years. So stick around and I'll cover that in this video. If you like this channel, be sure to click the like button on this video. It'll help get it out to more viewers. And also, if you want to see more content, please click the subscribe button. It helps us build the channel and build community. So for most of our careers, the answer is simple. Save more, spend less, build up those retirement accounts. Max them out if you can, but contribute whatever you can. I took pride in being the person who was doing the right thing financially. And even when it meant I had to be the adult in the room and say, no, we're not going to do that, or no, we're not going to take that particular trip, or no, we're not going to upgrade this trip. So it really changes your mindset when you've been doing this for so long and suddenly you realize that you've hit the goal, that you've crossed the finish line, that maybe you don't have to max it out every year going forward for those retirement accounts. And we're going to dive into that and what we're going to do with that. In the opening, what I was describing is what's called the crossover moment, when you realize that your accounts will do the heavy lifting on their own. So it's about reviewing your model, reviewing the statements, reviewing the growth, reviewing your budget, and making sure those all line up, making sure the pieces of that puzzle all fit. So I remember realizing that the prior year, the market had contributed way more than I had to the retirement account. And that really caught me off guard. It was not so much an equation of math, but it was a feeling of accomplishment, a feeling that now we could retire if we wanted to. We had reached that financial finish line. So in doing this, we made the conscious decision to stop maxing out our 401ks. And it seems counterintuitive to do so, but once you get to the point where you've hit the crossover and you run the models and realize that your growth is self-sustaining, now it's about, I don't know how much good time I have left, right? How much healthy time, that I want to take advantage of it now. So it's that balance, right? You've already got the long-term retirement taken care of, but let's look at the here and now. Let's figure out what we can do today to make life more exciting, to take advantage of that paid time off, to do things you've been wanting to do, but you've been too busy saving for retirement. And this creates an internal conflict because going from a saver to a spender is hard. You start to look at it with the what ifs and the guilt, and you start to second guess the plan. And what I do when that happens is I go back to the modeling software, I make sure all the numbers are current, and I run the simulations again. And it's learning to trust the process. So I'll be honest, this not saving as much, it didn't feel responsible, it felt like rebellion. But over time, this will help you leverage your today life in addition to your retirement life. It's important to note we didn't stop contributing to our 401ks altogether. It was still important to contribute, especially if you get a match. So now that you've crossed the retirement finish line and you've hit the crossover point, you don't want to give up that free money from the company. So still go ahead and do that percentage contribution into your 401k that is going to give you the maximum match from your employer, because that's real earnings. That's getting anywhere from 50 to 100% return on the money that you're putting in there. And why wouldn't you take that? That's part of your compensation package. So we decided we were still going to contribute that percentage to our 401ks to continue to get that matching, because again, 50 to 100% return depending on your employer's matching program. So I wasn't giving up contributing to retirement. I was just rebalancing. It wasn't really cutting back. It was being able to take advantage of the here and now since we've met our retirement goals. One of the great ironies is that catch-up contributions to your retirement accounts aren't allowed till later in life when they're least helpful. Those final few years, the money isn't going to see a lot of compounding or growth. It just gets added into the account almost on a cash basis. In modeling this, that became more apparent. And I realized that even though I could contribute more, it didn't make sense to contribute more later in those years. Maybe at 50 years old, when you still have 10 or 15 years left, yeah, go ahead and max it out, take advantage of that. But as you get into your late 50s or 60s, especially if you've crossed that crossover point, that retirement financial finish line, think about what else you could do with that money now to make life more meaningful. The catch-ups are most useful and most available to the people who are power savers anyways, the people who have been saving all along. And the irony is they're the ones who least need them because, again, they've hit this crossover point. If you do need them, this isn't to talk down upon that. Definitely go ahead and contribute and max out, again, especially if you're in your early 50s, because you still have a number more years that you could be working. But if you're in your late 50s or 60s, this is a time to kind of run the simulations, figure out where you're at, and decide if it makes sense to still be maxing out with those catch-up contributions. So we really shifted from an accumulation mindset to an intention mindset. It wasn't about how much more can I save. It was about how much more can I improve life? How much more can we start doing the things we've wanted to do? Because as we get older, health and energy dwindle, and we need to be more conscious about maintaining these and keeping our health up, keeping our energy levels up. And we know our energy isn't what it used to be, and everything feels different now than it did 20 years ago. And we may have physical limits just based on the natural aging of our bodies. So this is the time for you to build that life that you want today, even prior to retirement, and start doing those things you've dreamed about. Reallocate that money. What does the reallocation of that money look like? Well, for us, we're taking several big trips this year, and we wouldn't have normally done that, but we had occasions coming up that just made sense to take those trips now, because we knew that, again, we had a limited runway in front of us. We don't know what that looks like. It could be years or it could be decades. But since we have the opportunity, and since we've crossed the financial retirement finish line, let's use that money and do things now. Let's not wait for retirement any longer. Let's plan those trips. Let's make those reservations. Let's stop postponing the things we want to do. Most normal people my age are empty nesters. Yes, we're not there yet. However, we do have adult children and younger children, and the adult children will live with us. So that gives us the opportunity where the adult children can watch the younger child and also take care of our dogs. So now we have that freedom to begin traveling and doing things during our PTO that we may not have done before, or at least not as often. So things to create those excitement points in life. So this was the first time we started planning trips without putting the maybe someday we'll do this. Now it's about let's pick a week, let's put a deposit down, and let's get that trip on the calendar. It's about upgrading your life. All that money that you were putting into retirement can now be redirected. And it might be small changes at home, but they might be meaningful. Maybe it's hiring a cleaning service to come in a couple times a month. Maybe it's hiring someone to do your landscaping so you have more free time on the weekends to focus on other things. It's ultimately, though, about reducing your stress level and improving your life and your focus and being able to move in a direction intentionally to take advantage of these next few years while you still may be working, but you don't need to save as aggressively as you've been saving. Another option that you have, and this can be done in parallel, is to start building a cash buffer. If you don't have a buffer in a high yield savings account in case there's a market downturn during retirement, start looking at contributing to that buffer. Start putting money in there instead of your retirement account. Yes, you may not get the earnings on it that you'd get in the retirement account, but it's not going to go down if there's a market correction that lasts for a year or two, and you'll have this money, which will be guaranteed to continue to grow. Now, don't put it in a normal passbook savings account. Make sure you're at least getting several percent interest or more via a high yield savings account or a money market fund where you can continue to grow that money without that risk of losing the money. So you're basically building a super scale emergency fund in there with at least a year's worth of earnings. If you can get more, go ahead. And by year's worth, I really mean what your budget says is a year's worth, not so much your gross earnings, but really your net. And then maybe that can be reduced by what you'd actually spend in a year or two. So it gives you that opportunity to create that safety net too during this period. Maybe it's a split with that money, using some of it for traveling and doing things now, and then contributing some toward this long-term fund. And that may give you the relief you need from the guilt of not retirement saving altogether. You're just kind of changing what your retirement saving looks like. So now that you've reached the retirement financial finish line, and even though you're still working, it's a time for reflection. Now that your retirement funds are off working and growing on their own, sit back, think about what you'd regret not doing when you're older that you could do today. What do those things look like? What are they? Start making plans, but also practice gratitude. If there's donations you wanted to make, or time you wanted to invest, or volunteering you wanted to do, it's really at this point about reframing what success in hitting this goal looks like. It's not always about me, but it is about enrichment and experiences and fulfillment. I don't think I'll ever regret being a disciplined saver. It's something that served me well over my working years, but I may regret not using that discipline to actually take advantage of the life that's in front of me right now before our health and our physical bodies and our mental faculties start to fade. So if you're in the position where you can take advantage of it, this is your call to action. Go do it. Make those plans. Start moving forward. Model your retirement. Make sure you've crossed the finish line. Start reallocating that money to things you can do today and investing in a long-term emergency account. It's really you just taking those energies that you put towards savings for so many years and reallocating them to put toward doing things and experiences and building that emergency reserve. As always, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you.